Welcome to episode 2 of the LionHeart podcast, where we learn to have the heart of a lion in this jungle we call life. Now look, if you're here again on episode 2, I really appreciate it for everybody who listened in episode 1 and who is here right now. And if you're new, then welcome. In this podcast, we're all about becoming the best version of ourselves, leveling up mentally, spiritually, physically, in every aspect of our life. So, in this podcast, as you already see through the title, I want to speak about something very specific today called the Locus of Control. So, like I said, thank you to everybody who's listening, who's supporting and everything. And don't forget to follow everything. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify now, we're also on YouTube. And little by little, I'll start adding it on to more things as I figure it out. But today I want to focus on Locus of Control. So first of all, many people may be asking when they hear that, what is that? Locus of control. Like, what is that? So, locus of control is the extent to which someone believes that they have control over the situations around them. So, there are two different types of locus of control that you can have. There's an external locus of control, and there is the internal locus of control. Now, somebody with the external locus of control, basically what this means is they believe that everything on the outside has the influences on them. So that's the extent of their thinking. Meaning they'll have phrases like, oh, because this happened to me, then I did this. Or this happened, so it made me do this. It's the kind of mentality to where you look at everything outside affecting you. On the other hand, there is the internal locus of control. Internal locus of control meaning that it's the belief that you have effect on the things around you. Because I did this happened. I put this into action, and this came about because of that. An internal locus of control is a belief in having control over the situations around you. Now, the reason that this is so important is because usually between people who are more successful and the people who are not as successful, you see the difference between the locus of control and the thoughts of the people. Some people, as I mentioned in the last podcast, you can think of some people who it seems like their life is just going downhill, like a downward spiral, and things just keep going out of control, and it seems like everything is against that person, and everything's just getting worse and worse. On the other hand, you can think of a person who it just seems like everything is going right. Everything's going in the right direction. Everything seems like it's just nice and easy for them, and everything just kind of pushes along, and they just get more and more successful. We've seen these two different kinds of people in these two different groups. But one similarity that you'll see between the both of them is that most of the people who are not successful and who it seems that they have just a downward spiral that is getting out of control usually have an external locus of control. And on the other hand, for most of the people who are successful and make it to the top, and who it just seems like their life is just going on, they usually have an internal locus of control. Let me explain. So like I said, most of the people who are not able to reach success or reach the levels that they're going towards, most of the time they have an external locus of control, meaning that they're focusing on everything that is around them for being the problems. Oh, because of my boss doesn't like me, so because of that, this job is not working out, I'm not making enough money. Oh man, all these things. People focus on the outside situations. Oh, because of the way that everything is right now financially, then I'm forced to do this. I'm forced to live like this. Now, you have to understand that these things seem logical, right? It makes sense. The things that these people with the external locus of control says, it's not like they're just completely false. No, it makes sense. But the thing is, if you put the blame on other things, then those things will continue to haunt you, and it's just going to keep you in that circle, right? It's going to keep you chained up to that problem. That's the biggest issue with having that. The issues make sense. It's logical. But the issue is, if you focus on that external situations, then you're never going to be able to get yourself out of it, because at that point you have chained yourself to that situation that you are putting it externally about. On the other hand, if you have an internal locus of control, then you realize you have the mentality that if I do this, for example, let's say there's a job that you're not liking to work. Somebody with the external locus of control is just going to complain about everything. Oh, my boss doesn't like me. I'm not making enough money, so I can't do this. Oh, all these things, focusing on all the outside situations. On the other hand, somebody with the internal locus of control would look at it from, okay, I'm not enjoying this job right now. What can I do to either be promoted to a better position in this company, or what can I do to get out of here and get a better job, or even start my own business? Right? Somebody with the internal locus of control is not going to focus on all the things around them, but instead they're going to focus on the things that they can do in order to be able to change that situation. That is the biggest difference between people with the external locus of control and people with the internal locus of control. That is the biggest difference between people who are able to be successful in whatever it is that you want to be successful in. Like I said before, people have different versions of success. Success is not the same in everybody's mind. So, different versions of success, then the people with the internal locus of control are usually the ones who are able to make it to that point, because they realize that they have an ability to affect the situations around them. On the other hand, people with the external locus of control, they're always dependent on the other things around them in order to attain what they want to attain. And if you're always dependent on other things in order to get what you want, then for the most part, you're not going to get what you want. You can't be dependent on anything else. You have to be the one who goes out to do those things. So even when we think about, from even childhood, when you think about when a baby is born, because this is where the external locus of control starts. When a baby is born, obviously they have no control of the situations that are around them. They are fully dependent on the parents or the caretaker, whoever is with them, from that point when they are born. They are dependent on somebody to feed them, bathe them, change them, do everything for them. They are fully dependent. That's why we are born and forced into an external locus of control, because we have the mentality that we need to focus on everything that is around us, because that is what is supporting us. That is the only way that we're able to live. So as you're growing up in a childhood, little by little, as you grow up, you start becoming more and more independent and being able to depend on yourself rather than your parents. So you grow up all the way to the point where when you're in your teenage years, and little by little, you're kind of just growing apart. And little by little, you're supposed to start developing an internal locus of control. Being able to realize that you're able to affect the things around you and that you can take control of everything. But the issue is with a lot of people nowadays is that they never switch over into having an internal locus of control. Even when they grow up and get out by themselves, they end up keeping that same mentality that they had when they were a child. Having that external locus of control, always depending on everything that is around them. Whether it is their boss, whether it is a situation, whether it is the government, whatever it may be. They end up having this external locus of control and having a sense of helplessness to them because they are depending on everything else around them. That is one of the biggest issues of why people are not able to go in the direction that they want to go. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to have a lot of money. Everybody wants all these things in life. But the issue is, if you're dependent on everything else around you, it's not going to come. You have to realize that you have to take a hold of the wheel to be able to get towards that. In other words, you have to have an internal locus of control, meaning that you realize that you have the ability to affect the things around you. That's why the people with the external locus of control, you notice that they have a sense of helplessness to them. It seems like everything is just going wrong. Nothing can go their way. And it seems like it's just a spiral downward, like I said. So you have to develop having an internal locus of control in order to be able to battle that. Actually, everybody is put into a different situation, right? God puts everybody into specific situations for whatever reason. then it is solely your responsibility to be able to take control of that situation with the internal locus of control and realize that you have the ability to change it. It's no one else's responsibility. You're the only one that is able to change whatever situation you may be in. If you're unhappy, if you're realizing that everything is not going the way that you want to go, then you have to be the one to take a hold of the wheel and start turning it into the right direction. Because nobody else is going to do it for you. You can't be dependent upon everybody else. You cannot have an external locus of control if you want to take a hold of your own life. So, the importance is to develop an internal locus of control. Realize that you don't need to depend on anything else, on anybody else, in order to become the best version of yourself. You have to be willing to grab a hold of the wheel, and you have to realize that you have the ability to change the things around you. You have the ability to be able to make an impact on not only your life, but even the other people's lives around you. That's the whole purpose that I started up this podcast, because I want everybody to realize that you have the ability to change yourself to the best version of yourself and to level up in every aspect of your life. That is the whole message that I want to portray in this podcast. I want everybody to realize that you do not need to stay the same. If you're at the bottom right now, you do not need to stay there. You can make changes in your life, and you can start little by little. Things don't happen overnight. But the thing is, whatever your goal is that you want to be able to attain, you have the ability to start putting in the action now to be able to change it. And one of the most important mentalities to develop in order to be able to make that happen is having an internal locus of control. No longer depending on the things around you, no longer being helpless, no longer being depressed and anxious, feeling like you can't do anything about your life and that things are just going to keep going downhill. No, you have control over everything. It may not seem like it right now. If you're at a situation right now where it seems like you're just at the bottom and it seems like everything is going bad, it's very difficult to have a positive mindset in that kind of situation. I know because I've seen people in those kind of situations, and it's very difficult. But, like I said before, God never gives anybody anything that they can't handle. The cards were dealt to you the way that they were dealt to you for a reason. So you have to be the one to be able to get yourself out of that situation, and you have to be the one to put in the work and put in the effort. You're the only one that is able to do it. So, the main thing that I want to stress in this podcast is that if you have an external locus of control and you're depending on everything around you, then you really need to switch it up and realize that you have the power to affect the things around you. It's not the other way around. The things around you cannot affect you unless you allow them to. You have to learn to have a positive mentality, and you have to learn to be able to put in the action and just to make the effort and put in the everyday moves to get yourself better. If you want to physically get yourself better, then obviously you need to go to the gym, right? Go to the gym, do some kind of cardio, take a walk even throughout the day. You need to do something in order to level up in that aspect of your life. Financially, then you need to either whatever company that you're in, make yourself more valuable to get a promotion in that company if that's where you're wanting to stay. Or switch companies if you don't want to stay in that company anymore. Or start your own business. Like, it's up to you which decisions that you make. You have to figure that part out, and you have to make the decisions and make the impact to be able to make those things come into fruition. Because if you make no effort and you're just complaining all the time and blaming it on all the outside circumstances, then nothing's going to come about from that. You're going to end up staying in the exact same position that you were in. So make sure that you develop the internal locus of control so that you can start controlling the things that are happening in your life, and you're no longer dependent on all the things around you. Once again, we had a short podcast this time around, but I just wanted to get that point out of here so that you guys can realize that to develop the mentality that you can make the changes around you. You don't need to wait for anybody else. You don't need to wait for anything to happen. You don't need to wait for the government to give you money. You don't need to wait for any external circumstances to make your life better. You need to take the reins and start making it better yourself. You need to start putting in the action to be able to change whatever it is that you're doing right now, or whatever situation you may be in. So guys, I want to appreciate you guys for listening to the second episode of the LionHeart podcast. Like I said, I know this one's a little bit short too, but I like to just get straight to the point with all the information that I want to give to you guys. So like I said, with this podcast, my goal is to be posting the podcast every Monday. Make sure you guys check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, even on my YouTube channel. I have it on all three of those spots, and little by little we'll start adding it on to more. But make sure you guys share it with anybody who you feel needs to have that level up mentality, and specifically with this one, needs to learn to have that internal locus of control, realizing that they have control over everything in their life. So if you guys like the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, like it, follow it, whatever it is that you may be listening on to. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Peace.